This episode's brought to you by everynowheremusic.com. Yep, you got that right. That's yours truly. So if this is an endeavor you'd like to support, please come and sign up for my newsletter at everynowheremusic.com. Every nowhere or every now here, depending on whichever way you prefer to look at it. There are so many good things within this episode. I'm almost worried I might mess it up by trying to get into overtly superfluous descriptions of it all. Esther is such a remarkably accomplished, down-to-earth, grounded, and balanced musician. And you really hear that word balance quite a few times, and that is not a coincidence. True to the motto of what we see on this podcast, the conversation speaks for itself. But that being said, may I just remind you that we are an independent shop, so if you want to support us, please don't forget to go subscribe to our show on iTunes or Spotify. Give us a review if you're feeling particularly generous. And this is also me reminding you that this show is brought to you by the holisticmusicianacademy.com. And for those of you who still don't know, we have a bunch of courses on there aimed at musicians and patrons like you. And we are, all listeners of the podcast get a discount if you're clever enough to find a link to these courses through the podcast. This episode is also brought to you by everynowheremusic.com. That's my musician website, my artist website, everynowheremusic.com. And that's about it. Without much further ado, please welcome Esther Rojas. Hello, fellow beings. Welcome to Tapasya Loading, a safe space to attempt honest, raw, and authentic conversation in homage to the ancient act of stoking a sacred fire. We are officially on tape. Welcome, Esther.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are super excited to have you. Thanks for making this happen. Okay, let me try and get this straight. Where are you?
Today we are in New Orleans, in the port, in the ship.
So awesome. You want to tell us about how this whole thing is panning out? Or what brings you to New Orleans, and why has your life been so dynamic of late?
Yes, it's been so dynamic for the last 10 years, I believe. So right now I am working as a bass player for the musical theater here in the Breakaway, which is a ship, one of the ships for the NCL Norwegian company.
Oh, awesome.
Right? So, it's been 2 months almost since I am in this adventure, which I am loving. Actually, I adapted really fast to this life. And I think it's a good job opportunity for a musician like me. I'm besides of being an arranger, I am also a performer. I play the bass. So after pandemic, everybody kind of had a rough time. So to get on my feet, I decided to join this ship as a musician, and I am here in New Orleans today.
Beautiful. How many ports have you hit in the past few weeks?
Let me see, like 8 probably. We went to Aruba, Cozumel, Costa Maya, Costa Rica, among others.
Okay, my next question is, where can I sign up?
There are a lot of music agencies, but also there is a web page. I believe it's in NCL. Yeah, NCL. I think it's there.
I might just look that up, believe it or not. In a way, I mean, for someone like me, it's almost like the dream job, I mean, traveling. Yeah. The only part which I'm slightly skeptic of, me personally, is I'm a crap swimmer. So
me too.
No way. Really?
Me too. Yeah.
And you're not scared? You're not worried?
But it doesn't matter.
No?
No, I am not. No, good. I am a fearless person, actually.
Yes, it is very evident in your demeanor. So let's unpack that a little. Where do we best start? Where would you say your musical journey started?
Well, my musical journey started since I was born, because both of my parents are musicians.
Awesome.
My mom was an opera singer and violinist, and my dad studied a lot of instruments, and he graduated as a pedagogist. Music pedagogist. So my brothers and I, we had like music in our lives since we were born.
So cool. Are they the founders of the Rojas? By the way, before I go ahead, am I pronouncing your name right? Rojas? Or how?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah? Okay. I wasn't sure. I saw a few pictures of the Rojas School of Music. Was that founded by a family?
That is one of my brother's companies. He is a piano player, like amazing piano player, and he is also an entrepreneur. Nice. And he moved to Texas. Actually, my whole family is in Texas, and he created this music school with his wife, and they are doing amazing. Yeah.
No, so good to hear. I try not to sound like a music journalist when I ask these questions, because this isn't an interview. I try and make this obvious. I'm not a journalist. These are not interviews. I'm a musician. I'm just trying to get people to get a behind-the-scenes look into how musicians think and what their real lives are. But I would like me. I'm my parents are both doctors, so I had to really find it took me decades to figure out what being a professional musician even means. Do you think your family, having already planted some seeds in this branch, helped you in your journey?
Yes, I think so. Especially the talent and the discipline as well. And also, there are a lot of musicians that only have the academy part, and many other musicians that haven't joined an academy, haven't studied music like in a college or something like that. They are from the streets. We say that in Colombia. Yeah. But fortunately, we have both worlds.
So good.
And yes, I think it makes a difference. Like, for example, now in this job that I have, I feel so confident because I have all the experience playing bass in different settings, actually, not only like rock or jazz or salsa, but I've been playing in everything for the last 20 years. So I am grateful to my parents for teaching me discipline and also being like a holistic musician, actually, I could say.
The versatility of it all.
Yes.
I have to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Latin American musicians bring an inherently versatile set of musical skills. Generally, it's one of the very few parts of the world where the harmonic and rhythmic concepts are equally complex.
Yes, that is true. I would say that in Latin America, the harmonic part, well, you can see it in Latin jazz, for example, with influences from jazz, of course, and in music from Brazil, like bossa nova. But harmonically, like, for example, in my country and Peru and Ecuador and all of the other countries, the harmonies are not that complex. But rhythmically, yes, it's amazing that we have this African heritage, right, in our rhythms. So, yeah.
The harmonies may not be as complex as maybe, I don't know, some other part. I don't want to say something silly here, but harmony is part of the musical culture. It's not a foreign concept, right? I say that because you and I actually met during discussions over a paper I was writing, which I was screenshots I was posting, of which screenshots I was posting on Instagram, and we started talking there. And it's actually something I've been really kind of digging into. In my ancestral culture, for example, rhythm is like super advanced, but harmonic concepts are still considered to be like a foreign element
Yes.
in music generally. I've often wondered, because South Asia and Latin America, they do have some parallels in their history in a lot of ways. Both are ex-colonies, colonial parts of the world. But I often wonder, why did India not manage... Why is India still... I don't know, I'm going to say a lot of shitty things now, which I'm going to get shot for, I think. But let me put it this way. I've often been in ardent admiration of the manner in which Latin America has grown its own musical culture in a much more balanced manner.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
If you feel admiration for our music, it happened to me to really, really, really admire your music. I had the opportunity to be in India 5 years ago as a music teacher in Chennai, in an music academy in Chennai.
Oh, amazing.
And I was... Yes, I didn't tell you, right?
No. I noticed.
I
noticed very, very vaguely, by the way, on your Facebook page that you had lived in Chennai for a while. Which academy was this?
Swarna Bhumi Academy of Music.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, I went there to teach for one semester after I graduated from school in Boston. And oh my God, I really, really, really would like to go back and learn some of your music, because it's absolutely amazing and very complex to my ears. Yes. Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is, no doubt whatsoever. It is also complex to a degree where it sometimes does my head in. It's not just the musical complexities, it's also the socio-cultural complexities of it all. Of
course.
There's just so many. I mean, India used to be a continent, and then eventually got packed into one republic. So actually, even specific regions of a state have their own culture, which can be drastically different from something else.
Yes. It's very amazing, your country.
Thank you. That is very kind of you. To be clear, I'm actually German, so technically I'm of Indian ancestry. No, but I get you. I mean, India definitely my ancestral culture. It is definitely one of the, culturally one of the most complex and richest heritages ever. Right. But let's talk about you. We keep going on these tangents on this podcast. My apologies to anyone who's listening. We were talking about how growing up in a musical family gave you a sense of balance and discipline from the very onset that helped you grow your career. Were there any ways it limited you, though, in your approach?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome.
As I said, fortunately, my parents immersed us in in our country's music, for example. So from an early age, I was playing bambucos and cumbias and vallenatos from my country, right? And at the same time, I used to study classical violin. I was trained as a classical violinist.
Oh, wow.
So I had both sides of the coin, right? So no, I don't think, I can't think of any limitations.
That's so beautiful.
From that part. Yeah.
I was watching one of your performances a couple of hours back, just to get a deeper vibe for the kind of music you do. Thank you. It is. You're really badass.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
That's the only way I can say it. No, really, I mean, it is so inspiring to see the manner in which the elegance and fluidity with which you conduct these huge bands while playing bass yourself. It is, I mean, this is the result of a lot of dedication and a lot of work. So as someone who's never, for example, conducted a big band. I've always played in smaller ensembles, mostly, except for the odd gig in a big band. I've always wondered, to grow
a skill set like that, where does one start?
Oh my God. I think, I am blessed because again, I started from my childhood, right? And I think that I developed these things, these skills like organically and naturally because, besides the talent, there is a discipline, right? So I've been in this music field for many, 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 many years. And as I said before, I have both experiences, like being a violinist in a classical music orchestra or ensemble, right? And also being able to play in popular ensembles in bars and in the streets, right?
Yeah.
I think both experiences led me to this point where I can conduct a big band, write arrangements for a big band, and also play the bass at the same time, right? I am blessed, for this.
Well, a lot of us are blessed, but not everyone cashes in on their blessings at the risk of sounding somewhat I don't know, transactional, but I'm still curious though. One, it's very clear that you obviously had a very well-rounded education where both the academic side and the real-life street side of musicianship were an inherent part of your education. Did you ever find these to be in conflict with each other?
Not for myself, but I did listen to a lot of music teachers like maestros saying that if you played popular music, that was going to screw up with your technique, for example. And I also can think about unfortunately, how can I say, like the people that belongs to a classical field, like they kind of diminish people that belong to the popular side of the music, if I'm being honest. Always people are comparing themselves. You know, we have this habit of comparing or giving value to another thing, right? To me, music is the same. Of course, we have tons of styles in the world, right? But to me, music is a democracy, and I value playing a merengue and playing bossa nova. Again, different styles, and to me, different styles appeal to different emotions in myself. But at the end, it's music, right? So. What was your question again? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I got lost.
No, not at all. No, I didn't. You didn't sound lost at all, Esther. That was exactly what I was trying to get a feel for. If you found conflicts in the approaches towards music in the two fields.
Not to me. But as I said, I know a lot of colleagues that diminish when people play, like, for example, reggaeton.
Yeah.
Or people that play jazz, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Is that an experience you've had primarily in Colombia, or is that a universal pattern?
I think it's a universal, or at least in my experience. I'm from Colombia, born and raised. I went to college there, but also I went to college in Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Yeah, I know.
Right? But I've seen this in the real life as well. Like, as I said, I had the opportunity to perform in both sides of the musical experience. And in real life, I've seen how musicians tend to compare themselves. If I play salsa, oh, wow, that is just salsa, Latin music, you know? So, yeah, unfortunately, that is what I've seen.
Yeah, intimately familiar. Unfortunately, my experiences have proven that to be a bit of a universal phenomenon as well. I wonder where it comes from. It seems like an institutionalized thing, just generations of institutionalized opinions being passed down and being accepted at face value, really.
Yes, that's true.
How do you incorporate the best of both worlds when you approach your music?
Well, now that I am playing again musical theater, which is something that I don't do often, right? Now I again tuned my mind to say, okay, this is different. This is not like one of the plays I'm doing is called Six. It's a musical theater type of play made in London. It's a really, really interesting one. The story is amazing. It's fun. It's about Henry VI or the fifth wives. And the music, it's very strict. I have to play every note as is written in the music charts. Right. I can't make up bass lines. I just have to be super disciplined and play what is written, right? So now I am thinking, okay, I am taking this as a challenge to be disciplined in my mind and also physically, because I have to stand up for 1 hour and a little bit more and just play what is written, right? Sometimes our minds wandering, we like to improvise or create things. It's our mind, but sometimes it is good to have a discipline. And this particular job, I am taking this as an opportunity to work on my non-discipline.
Is that a word we could unpack a little in your opinion? What does discipline mean to you, especially for someone like you with that degree and depth of versatility that you bring? To someone like you, what does the word discipline mean?
Well, now my discipline concept changed a little bit because I used to think of a discipline like a punishment. Yes, that sometimes it seems like a punishment or torture. But now I found out recently that discipline is a balance.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that our brains just like to stay in a comfort zone. We really don't want to go wake up early and just play the bass for an hour and go to the gym and have some discipline. No, we just would like to just stay in bed watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now that I understand that concept, like neuroscience things, I've been really digging into that because I find it fascinating. So now that I understand that I have to force my brain to really step out of my comfort zone if I want to achieve something. But also I understood that I have to be compassionate to myself. And this is a result of knowing myself better, right? Like this year, I went through a process of deeply understanding and getting to know myself intimately. And now I can say, okay, I'm gonna stay really on my discipline thing during the week. And I need to disconnect from work, from the gym, from my discipline life at least one day in a week.
Yeah.
I really, really need that time for myself.
Yeah.
That is mental health and physical health. So I am like balancing my life a little bit better. And that to me is discipline, is being consistent, but also giving me grace to understand and say, okay, it's enough. I'm going to take a nap when I need it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah, now for me, discipline is being able to have a balance in my life.
Beautiful. That actually is very close to my definition of it. I look upon it as the other side of freedom.
Yes.
The way I see it, right. Freedom doesn't really exist without discipline. I mean, true freedom comes from, it's like the yin and yang, the two poles. One doesn't really exist without the other.
Right.
I also really resonate with the feat of putting ourselves outside our comfort zones because, as paradoxical as it sounds, it feels like true comfort actually comes with a friendship with discomfort.
Yes. Actually, right? I was reading the other day that we release these hormones like oxytocin, and when we have a pleasant experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I need to force myself to do some things in order to have that oxytocin release and in order to feel like really, really good, right? Like, for example, going to the gym or practicing for an hour.
Yep.
Right? I know that at the end of that experience, I'm going to feel super, super amazing. So yeah, discipline and freedom.
Yep, absolutely. And on the flip side, I can say from personal experience, as tempting as the idea of falling back on the couch with, I don't know, a burger and just Netflixing the whole evening. I mean, I enjoy that every now and then too.
Yes.
I mean, doing that on a regular basis never ends well.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not rocket science. It's still surprising at how easy it is to fall for that trap.
It is.
Before you know it, you're in.
Yeah, according to the neuroscience people, our brains are primed to do that, to be just in the comfort zone and avoid any danger that we feel might happen to us, right? Avoid dangerous situations. So, yeah.
Absolutely. You've obviously been putting in a lot of work into building a holistic lifestyle for a musician.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Is that something you were always, that was always on your agenda?
Oh, no. No. I remember when I was in college, I used to just don't think on myself, on my health, because I was in an environment where everything was happening, and I used to work, study at the same time, and being in a lot of projects at school and traveling and doing videos and recordings and arrangements and a lot of things. So I didn't care about my health, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I had a couple of breakdowns, and now I understood that I have to keep a balance between every area of my life, not only the professional part, but also personal and family, everything. Yeah.
Is that something we can talk about a little? Do you know when?
Sure.
When was the point when you realized, okay, this is not sustainable?
I believe it was like in 2019.
So it's pretty recent.
Yeah, it's recent. I was not doing what I like to do, which is traveling and playing. That is one of my passions, right? Traveling and playing.
Beautiful.
So I was living a different life. I was fully immersed into teaching, which I love. I love teaching because I learned a lot from my students.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing, I wasn't playing live and traveling. So I quickly became like frustrated, and then I had like a health crisis, and since then I realized, okay, I have to change something. And after a lot of, I think I spent 2 years really slowing down and getting deep into my soul and getting closer to God as well. And now I can say that I'm starting to tap into a more balanced life.
For a lot of our listeners, I think they would wonder, because I know for a fact I work with a wide range of collaborators, students, clients, and it's generally a struggle a lot of us are going through. We seem to be caught on this hamster wheel of life. We started off with this set of goals. We were told that this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And then this idea of hard work and hustle, and we were into it. Yeah. And at some point we've lost track of what we're doing, why we're doing it. And I know for a fact that a lot of the people I work with have one primary question they can't seem to wrap their head around, which is, where does one start? Because a lot of us know that we're caught up in a lifestyle that's not actually in alignment to our goals, but we don't know where to start changing that. What was your first step?
Well, one of my first steps was acknowledging that I wasn't feeling well and being vulnerable.
Yes, thank you.
And having the grace of recognize that I mean, sometimes our ego kind of forbid us to acknowledging, okay, I'm mistaken, right?
Always.
But yes, that there's a lot of ego involved in these things. Oh, yeah. So I learned that, okay, I'm going to put my ego aside. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm depressed because I was. I had like 2 depression crises in my life. Fortunately, I'm absolutely healed from that, I can say. I'm living my full life, happy and blah, blah, blah. But at the time, I just had to acknowledge, okay, I'm depressed. What can I do? I started listening to a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos from people like psychologists, psychiatrists, neuroscience people, and gurus. Awesome. I have like a couple of gurus.
Nice.
And then after acknowledging that I was broke, let me think. This was like a couple of years ago. Well, I'm a Christian, not a fanatic, not a religious person, but I have a private communication with God. And I asked him, God, first I asked for, what is the word? I'm sorry, I am Colombian. I'm not fluent in English, so I apologize for that.
No, please don't apologize. Your English is fantastic.
Forgiveness. Yes, forgiveness. Yes. I ask God for forgiveness, really, like from the bottom of my heart. I acknowledge my mistakes, my sins and everything. And I opened my heart and I was vulnerable to him. Yeah. And then slowly I begin to realize like little steps that I could take in order to heal, right? So one of the things that I heard at that time is a neuroscientist saying that it is good for our brain and for our everything to watch the sunlight at 6 a.m. or first thing in the morning, right? Yeah, because that was going to help you with the metabolism and depression and everything. So I started doing that.
Amazing.
And also, I have fibromyalgia, chronic pain for the last 20 years or more years. And I had also a crisis at the same time in 2019. I remember that I had to stay lying in a couch for 2 weeks. I couldn't move myself. I couldn't even sit because of the pain that I had. I went to ER because I had incapacitating pain in my, it was a nightmare. So after those 2 weeks, I started slowly getting my movement back. So I understood that I had to be super gentle with myself and I had to have a lot of compassion, because sometimes we have compassion for other people, but we don't have compassion for ourselves. Right? So I started also being compassionate to myself. And another thing that I learned is that I have to go at my pace. Right? I had to not force myself to do a lot of things, just to go step by step. That's me. That's my process.
Yeah.
I'm an individual person with my own processes.
Yes.
So I started doing a lot of things, but little. And also I asked for help, because that is the other thing that some of us are ashamed.
Yep.
And we don't ask for help.
Yep.
But I knew that I had to go to doctors. I went to a lot of doctors. I was in Colombia actually at that time. And I also have a common sense.
Yeah, that helps.
I knew that I had to that helps a lot. I knew that I had to be in a treatment with a psychiatrist. Fortunately, I had a good doctor. She prescribed treatment for like 3 months. I was taking that, but also at the same time, I was doing the other part, like getting up at 6 a.m., going out and look at the sunlight, going to the gym, do what I could do.
Yeah.
And, a lot of mindfulness, yoga, eating a whole food diet. Well, not diet, just because I don't diet, but I also, fortunately in Colombia, we still cook our meals at
Amazing.
home, right?
So good.
Yeah. So then after like 3 months of taking the treatment, I said, okay, I feel super, super good. During my childhood and teenage, I wasn't a friendly person. I didn't have friends. But now I know that it is important to have friends and have a social life.
Community.
Yes, community. Everything in a balanced way, right?
Yeah.
So I also said, okay, I'm going to be open to meet more people. I moved cities in Colombia. I went to a city in the south, Garzón, where I have a lot of family. So I started going out in the weekends with my family, sharing time with the community. And that also helped me. So as you can see, it is a holistic approach.
Wow.
That works. Yeah.
That is very inspiring.
Thank you. To end that part, after like 3 months of doing this, I started feeling super, super, super good. And I asked myself, okay, do I need to keep taking these pills? Or not? And of course, I consulted with my doctors and they said, no, you have to keep taking that. And okay, I'm going to take a lower dose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was very critical with myself. I mean, I was really in tune with myself and observing every thought, everything in myself. So after like 5 months, I said, you know what? I feel awesome. I haven't had any depression thoughts for the last 4 months, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to stop taking the medication. And, but of course, I kept doing my new habits, like healthy habits, like going out, earthing, and having fun, and also working hard.
Yeah.
And now I can say that I am completely healed from that part. I still have fibromyalgia because that never goes away. I have chronic pain, but I live a happy life. I also, you know what? I also learned not to be attached to things. That is one of the things that I love about Buddhism is the attachment part, and also living in the present, living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just talking about a lot of things.
No,
but
that's what we want. That's why we have you on, because we want to listen to your story.
Yeah, like those things have helped me to now live happy without. I don't have a house. Mm-hmm. I chose to.
Me neither.
Yeah. So I chose to now to work in this ship mm-hmm. because I'm getting paid well, and also traveling. I'm getting to travel, and I'm meeting a lot of people, and I'm playing a lot of music. Like I play every day, actually.
So cool.
Every day I am playing bass.
So
yes.
Cool.
So yeah, let's see what the future is going to be about. But for now, I am amazingly happy.
So cool. I'm so happy for you. That is super inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because people, a lot of people do the research and they learn the concepts.
Yes.
But not everyone puts in the work. It's like music as well.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds like you really put in the hours, did your research, and then implemented the results of your research.
Right. Yes. That is important, right?
My therapist always says, you can't do my work, I can't do your work. That kind of sums it up.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, I swear about therapy because and I'm actually a certified therapist myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not licensed, certified, but so I do work as a coach, not a therapist per se, and I use them in my teaching concepts. But it's so evident to see, to get help and find out more about tools which you can implement. That's great.
Right.
But implementing those tools is something you can never outsource. Only you can implement those, right?
Oh, yes. That is true.
It's very inspiring and very heartwarming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
By the way, the word forgiveness, it's so ironic. Not ironic, but it's interesting. That's the word. I have that word tattooed on my forearm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. That word forgiveness is... I have a very interesting relationship with that word, I think. Yeah, I remember someone saying, if you're struggling with something, you're probably going to tattoo it on your arm. And I'm afraid this guy was right. I think forgiveness is something I'm really struggling with. I don't think I'm very good at it.
Okay, talking about that tattoos, I also tattooed a word that helped me when I was struggling, and it's grateful.
Nice.
And now every day, I am grateful. And I noticed that when I start thinking about the future, and I become a little bit anxious, but I can stop that immediately by being grateful.
So good. So good.
Yes.
Let's talk about your approach to life and its interrelationships with music, because I know for a fact that it is deeply connected. So here's a question. Did you feel your music transforming at some level when you started living differently?
Well, music. I'm going to tell you something. Some years ago, I felt like I could live without playing music.
Interesting.
Like in the mindset that I was at that time, I felt like, it's going to be okay if I don't play music at all.
Nice.
I can do anything else. I can do it. And I was fine with that idea at that time, but I also was struggling a lot with myself. Oh, wait, sorry. There is an alarm. Sorry. Okay. Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So, oh my gosh, I got distracted. What I was saying? Sorry.
You were saying that you got to a point where it felt like you'd be fine not playing music.
Oh, yes. So in 2020, 2021, I was digging into myself a lot, and I started thinking about my purpose in life. And at the beginning, I didn't have a clue about what my purpose is in this life. But then I knew that it had to do with serving the community. So how as a musician, how can I serve the community, right? That seems something, what can a musician do for the community other than just play music to dance or whatever? But as a bass player or as an arranger, I feel like I have a responsibility to lay down the foundation for the music. For example, as a bass player, bass players, we have the rhythmic and harmonic foundation, right? If a bass player is not doing his job like accurately, then the music is going to be awful, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm playing bass, I always think, okay, I'm going to enjoy this because I want the people to feel good. I want people to have a great time listening to this music. I want my colleagues, my bandmates, to be comfortable playing their stuff, right? If I'm playing a good bass groove, for example.
Absolutely.
And also as an arranger, like my main thing as an arranger is to organize the music in the best way, in a nice way, in a clear way.
Designing.
So that the musicians...
Designing. It's like a designer role almost.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So now I serve the community through my music, and that is my purpose.
Nice. That makes so much sense.
Yes.
That resonates on so many levels. You know, I had the privilege of attending a very intimate, small master class inside a room with Pat Metheny once.
Oh,
way back in the day. Yeah, that was amazing. One of the biggest highlights of my life. Yeah, literally, he was like literally sitting next to me, talking.
Oh my God!
I know, right? I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It was, and it was one of those huge privileges. I used to study in this super small college in South Germany, and they used to get all these artists down. And I was his kind of his escort for it. Not escort. Oh, that came out wrong. Like his like his manager for a day. Not manager, but I was like the student rep, like to making sure his rehearsal rooms were in order and so on. I went off on one there, but basically the point I was trying to make is he said something in that seminar which was a complete game changer for me. He said, you know, and this is a guy who played an average of 300 gigs from 1977 till 1999. 300 gigs a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he cut down 300 gigs to 200 gigs a year because he wanted to have more time for family, starting from 99, 2000, I think.
Yeah.
And then he said, you know, I got to a point in my life a few years back where I realized that it wouldn't matter to me if I never played a single note of music again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and at the time, it was one of the most confusing things I'd ever heard as a young music student, just, you know, putting in 10 hours a day practicing piano.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, you know? What does that mean? So why am I practicing piano for 10 hours a day?
Yes.
And but it took me a couple of years to kind of really wrap my head around what he was getting at, that, you know, the music is, you know, music is not just about music.
Right.
If you don't see the bigger picture, and I would bet that the bigger picture is what you refer to. I'm in the same camp. It's about service.
Yes.
At some point, if your music isn't service to something bigger than your ego, then it's you know, we're kind of missing the whole point. That's when we stop becoming musicians, really.
Wow.
Anyway,
that is deep.
Well, I'm just saying the same thing you did, just, you know, in a different bit of a. You kind of said the same thing yourself, didn't you? Well,
yeah. I was thinking that, like in the past, I used to feel like, okay, I'm going to play this because it makes me feel good.
Mm.
But now it's more like, I'm going to play this because it's going to make other people feel good.
Yes, that is
right?
very deep too. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that makes a lot of sense because we can't really make others feel good before we start feeling good ourselves, right? That's codependency.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the first step. We have to learn to feel good ourselves before we decide to spread anything. Otherwise, we're spreading half-baked truths around, and that's dangerous. That's how toxic pedagogy spread into the world. Like teachers who never got their shit together, never got their baggage unpacked, ended up teaching because they were frustrated. And
oh my God,
it's a pattern we want to break.
Right.
Which brings me to a question I've been curious about for a while now. Why bass? What made you choose bass as your primary instrument?
Oh my gosh. Well, it is simple. I said that I used to be a violinist, classical trained.
Mm-hmm.
I started in college for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
almost graduated from violin.
Really?
But my main motivation as a violin player was playing at an orchestra. But unfortunately, at that time, I was studying in a public university in the south of Colombia. And, public universities, they struggle a lot because they are from the government. And sometimes the government consider education in the last of their responsibilities.
Right.
So the chamber orchestra in that university just stopped working. They stopped the process. So I didn't have motivation at the time. So I quit violin. But I remembered when I was in high school, my dad, he used to have the student orchestras, and he used to organize bands to play in different settings in the school. So he needed, every time he needed a musician to play any instrument, he called one of his sons or me. Hey, Ruben, do you want to play the clarinet?
Nice.
And or the trombone. So one time, my dad needed to put together a band to play rock music. I was 14 or something like that.
That's the perfect age to play rock music.
Yeah. He didn't have a bass player. Nobody used to play bass. So he saw me walking around, and he said, "Hey, Esthercita," my family called me Esthercita, "would you like to play bass?" And I said, "Well, sure." And I remember that I started playing this rock in Spanish, rock en español, rock in Spanish, actually. And I just loved the feeling of the bass in my tummy, the frequencies that I felt, and I felt so empowered. I felt like I was on top of the world. And actually, when I play rock, I have the same feeling.
Nice.
I feel so empowered. So years later, I remember that feeling. And when I quit violin, I said, what if I started playing bass and studying bass? And I did that. Still do that.
Awesomeness. Do you remember what songs you were playing? Was this Colombian rock music or?
It was at the time. There was a very famous rock band from Argentina called what is the name? Dun, 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 dun. Soda Stereo.
I think I might have actually heard of it.
And they were super famous.
Amazing.
De Música Ligera was the song that I learned first, and it was amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of women playing bass at the time around you?
Oh, no.
So were you the only one?
Not the only one. At that time, I only met one female bass player in Bogota. And she was my first teacher, actually. Her name is Natalie Gambert. She's from Swiss. And for some reason, she was living in Bogota, in Colombia. So, yeah. But at that time, I don't recall meeting another female bass player. So I'm talking about 20 years ago, maybe.
Did it feel like an unconventional role to play? Did you feel conspicuous, or did you not give a shit?
No, I knew that there weren't many female musicians in that field. I knew that, of course. But at the same time, because my parents are musicians, how can I say? I never felt playing music, playing any instrument was wrong. So yeah, I didn't thought about that actually. I just started playing and studying jazz and all of these things. So I didn't give much of a thought.
Beautiful.
About that, yeah.
Was that something has that ever been an issue later on? Did you ever feel, correct me, this is tricky area for me to talk about as a man, but I'm still curious. Have you ever felt discriminated against for being a woman bass player?
Well, I remember just one episode many years ago when I started playing tropical music. By tropical music, I mean Latin music, like for parties and some tropical cumbia or merengue. I started playing that like 15 years ago, and I didn't really know the style yet. So I remember that I went to audition to a band, a tropical music band, and I remember that the director wasn't kind enough to teach me how to play certain song. And he was kind of rude. But other than that time, that only time, I don't recall feeling discriminated. But I've heard from a lot of female colleagues, musicians in Colombia, that there is a lot of discrimination in the field for female musicians. And actually, I was invited for the second time to Colombia to conduct the big band for the Festival Jazz al Parque, right? I was invited as conductor, arranger, and unfortunately in Colombia, the big band and ensembles have been only for not have been only for male, but only male musicians have joined the big band. There are a few, very, very few women that did that before. So this year in September, the Bogota city, they created the first all-female big band, not only with women musicians, but also conducted by a woman and arranged by a woman. So now I know that there is a lot of discrimination in the field for women musicians.
What was it like? I mean, how do you compare the two experiences, conducting a big band almost exclusively comprised of males, and then the same thing almost exclusively comprised of females? Was it different?
Yes, it was different. It was different because, as I said, these big bands were only male, like only composed by male.
Right.
So men have the opportunity to know how to play in a big band setting, right? Like the codes, the style, is different. So now with my female colleagues, it was amazing. I mean, the experience was absolutely outstanding. The results were marvelous. Like everybody was really, really, really like ecstatic for the experience. But also, now that is open, now that we know that there are a lot of female musicians, at least in Bogota, willing to play jazz in this, because this was for Jazz al Parque. Of course, there are a lot of female musicians that play different styles of music. There are a lot of percussionists, female percussionists in Colombia. Amazing. So now that we have that space open, I hope that we can continue teaching that experience, right? Like creating very good ensembles to keep playing music.
What were the attitudes like? Like, how did it feel? Did you feel a difference in the attitude of the people you were conducting?
I want to say that I felt a lot of willingness from my female colleagues to learn and to share and to express themselves through music. Yes.
Beautiful.
Let's just say that.
And here's a question, and please feel free to take the third degree if you prefer. Did you ever feel like any of the participants in the all-male orchestra struggled to accept you as a leader?
Yes. Yeah, maybe. But I think that it depends on the attitude that as a female I have. I am very confident in my skills. in my experience, right? So I've also been working on not taking things personal,
right.
And I think that changed a lot the perception and how I perceive things. Like one of the things that I first learned when I came to the US to study, is to accept when my director says that I am wrong and I have to play this and that, not taking things personal makes the difference many times.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Yeah. So when I am conducting a male big band, for example, I am confident. I try to address people with respect, but also with clarity, like saying things directly, but kind. So, yeah.
So good. That is so helpful. One of the things I find most inspiring about your demeanor is you're so humble. Our correspondence has been short, but you're like super down to earth, grounded and humble. One would not think you're used to conducting full-size orchestras all over the world, which you have written, arranged and composed for. It's, no one would think that is the level of work you constantly engage yourself in. I guess my question is, because I find myself surrounded, since I work in very diverse circles in different parts of the world, one of the things I really struggle with sometimes is gauging and understanding my colleagues' behaviors. Because oftentimes, in my experience, the more accomplished a musician, the more down to earth they tend to be. But I've also seen exceptions to that rule. And I've also seen people get, constantly stumbling over the ego.
Yeah.
With no sense of grounding on what appropriate behavior is, especially when some form of conflict has arisen. And conflict always arises in the rehearsal room in one way or the other, most hopefully in a healthy way, and sometimes not so in a healthy way.
Yeah.
What are your pointers to your fellow musicians on growing that skill, and what's the basic compass here to follow? Why is being humble and down to earth a good thing?
Well, one of the words that just come to my mind is compassion. I believe that being compassionate to my colleague is key to be able to understand and help the music.
Yes.
Because at the end, we are trying to make music in the best way, right?
Yes.
So what is music? In an ensemble, everybody has to do their best in order to have a pleasant music song or whatever that you are trying to convey. So very often I try to put myself in the shoes of my colleagues, right? But also knowing my role. Like, what is the bass role? What is the piano role? What is the singer role? Right? So again, I am at service, at the service of the band, of the singer, right? So like now that I am doing this job just as a bass player, I am not conducting anything. I am not arranging for this. I'm just a bass player. So to me, that is a humbling experience because it's not about me. It's about the music. It's about the singer. So compassion and common sense as well. And also, again, not taking things in a personal way.
That sounds like fantastic information, fantastic advice. With your permission, though, I would like to delve a little deeper. What do you do when you're dealing with people whose self-assessment skills are so poor that you have no choice but to be critical in your assessments?
Yes.
Because that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you handle those situations when it's very evident that someone is lost as far as the self-assessment skills are concerned, especially when it's for the music.
Yes, actually, I've been thinking these days about that because, some things that we are living here in the ship, in this job. Mm-hmm. There is another part of being a conductor that I had to work on, and I am still working on. That is being confident, because again, I have the knowledge and the experience. So just being confident and speaking clearly and not being afraid of pointing out mistakes and have a solution, because it's not only saying, okay, you are wrong, but what can you do to fix that? Right? So
constructive criticism.
That is the first thing. Yes, of course. It's hard. It's hard to also, again, balance, right?
Absolutely.
Being able to point out mistakes, but in a respectful way.
Yeah.
And also try to fix that.
Right.
Again, balance.
I distinguish destructive and constructive criticism with solutions being the key word here. Criticism just for the sake of criticism doesn't help anyone.
Exactly.
You're actually offering a solution. Yeah. That's actually problem solving.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But here's another thing I'm also curious about. The manner in which criticism is received is also kind of dependent on cultural nuances. So do you find yourself, do you find the reception of your criticism being taken differently depending on which part of the world you're in, or the cultural background of the musicians you're working with? Is that something you take into consideration?
Yeah.
Or do you find it being different depending on the situation?
Yes, taking into account that different is not bad or good. Different is just different, right? But yes, I because I've been working in different cultures, Colombia, the United States, and also I went to India to teach teenagers and young people. It was so different because in India, people talked in a different way. They like to argue a lot. At the beginning, I thought that they were just fighting with each other. It is not. They just talk like that, and I'm used not to talk like that. Anyways, so I've been working with a lot of cultures, and
I gotta laugh.
Now I develop a thicker skin.
Some.
Oh yeah.
Some people enjoy that. Some people actually really think. I struggle with it big time because I'm actually quite European in my mindset when it comes to conversation. I'm like, let's find a solution and let's do a debate, but let's stick to the facts and try and find a constructive, rational conclusion. I keep finding myself in situations in India where I'm like, what the hell is going on? Everyone's just shouting.
Exactly.
I have no clue
but again, compassion comes into play, right?
I won't lie. Sometimes I run out of compassion. Sometimes there's a lot of compassion. I feel like that's being demanded of me, and maybe I'm an arrogant, whatever. But and I'm open to that possibility, needless to say. But it is tricky, which is why I'm asking. You got to realize, I've spent all my adult life in Germany, 20 years, and all my professional life in Germany. And in Germany, people are that's the whole different extreme. Everyone's so stoic and just so direct and in your face. By international standards, Germans are rude.
Yes.
That's an established fact. Normal German behavior is just mostly rude by international standards. The degree of straightforwardness, but for us, that's just normal.
Yes,
that's just
Yes, exactly.
But I've had my experience to kind of learn to dial it down.
I know.
But in India, for example, it's everyone's walking on eggshells. I feel like no one wants to address. Elephants in the room just don't exist. But anyway, I feel like I hijacked the conversation. My apologies. Back to you. Please keep going on what you were saying.
We were talking about, like how to deal with cultural, how can I say?
Cultural differences, nuances, yes. And how to engage in critical, in constructive criticism. Cultural.
Yes. My God, it's so hard, so difficult, right? Again, I think respect and compassion and putting myself in the other shoes, right? That is key to try to find a common ground, balance, and what is the ultimate goal as well, right? Because so often we focus on the small details, small things.
Yeah.
But what's the big picture?
Here's a question, Esther. The last orchestra you conducted, or the big band, how many members?
That big band was about 25.
So how do you put yourself in 25 pairs of shoes at the same time? How do you deal with the demands of that?
Experience. Yeah. I try to open myself to feedback. Mm-hmm. Like I love working on a collaborative ambience. So, but I also know my role. My role is to organize. Right. I see being an arranger, being a bass player, and also being a conductor as mainly organized. So I have that always in my mind. I don't like not understanding what is happening. I like structure. Even though if I am playing free jazz, there has to be some sort of structure, right?
Yep.
Yes.
But it takes an enormous amount of resilience to nurture that degree of confidence. And it also takes an enormous amount of dedication to nurture that confidence authentically, because you can't fake that kind of confidence. That's the kind of confidence that really has to be part of your system, right?
Well, so I've been working a lot on my confidence.
Exactly. Yes. How does one work on that? What are your pointers for us?
Well, again, I'm into neuroscience a lot and spirituality a lot. So every day I read or I listen to a podcast of people that talk about those topics. And I always am analyzing myself a lot. Like, what are my thoughts? Why I am getting triggered by this or that? And last year, I found out that when I feel triggered by something, by somebody, is often because of my ego. So I like putting the salt in the wound and understanding what is happening, being honest with myself, but also how can I improve?
Yeah.
And a lot of compassion, my friend.
Yeah, that seems to be the word of the hour. I tend to get triggered a lot when people act in a manner that reminds me of things I don't like about myself. That's been my biggest revelation. It's many other things, and it's a bitter pill to swallow. By the way, it's not a very easy one to accept.
Yeah.
Not implying how it works for others. It's just something I've seemed to have come to a conclusion to. We've been talking for a while. I want to respect your time. Tell us a little about how the next few weeks are looking for you.
Well, the next week until March are going to be all about keeping my good habits. It is not easy. It is not easy to live on a ship because things happen. It's a very active life if you want, but also you have free time. a lot of free time. And you can get alcohol very cheap. Like so, and there are a lot of friends that you make in the ship, and you can hang out at any time with people, and time flies, and right. And we are going to ports almost every day. You get to get off and go to the beach and have pina coladas, and it's a lot of spare time, but also we work. We also work. But with this, I'm trying to say that it is hard to keep a balanced life and a productive life if that is your goal. If you are not interested in upgrading yourself, then it's fine. But I have to be very conscious about my discipline, about my days, my time. What am I going to do now? At what time can I go to the gym when it's not crowded? So I'm going to be working on those habits, practicing, going to the gym, eating healthy, because here you can eat almost whatever thing you want. There are a lot of options. Sometimes when you have a lot of options in your life, you try to take advantage of it, but sometimes it is better to stick to a couple of options, right?
Indeed.
Again, it depends on your goals in life. And it depends on your state of mind. Maybe your age also. But for me, it's about being grateful for this dream job. This is one of my dream jobs, but also taking advantage of it and keep studying, keep growing.
Sounds like temptations abound in a job like that. I can relate. I haven't played on a ship yet, but I've played a few long-term gigs at dinner shows, which were also like 3-month gigs with free alcohol, free gourmet food, and just hang all day long. So it's just 6 hours of showtime, and for the rest of the day, you basically do whatever the hell you want. And
exactly,
it's a constant oscillation. It's like one pole to another. The idea of 6 hours of intense work where you have to be like 100% there, and there's the rush of adrenaline as well. And then the rest of the day, it's like nothing to do whatever you feel like. It's actually a lot more to handle than people tend to assume. You sound very disciplined, though. From what I gather, you sound like the kind of person who wakes up early, gets their sun, goes to the gym, practices bass. Is that what your lifestyle looks like?
Not all the time. Now that
That's what you aim for?
Well, that is my, I feel good with this life, with my life. Awesome. But also, again, it all depends on you. Every person has their own journey, their own things to fix, their own demons. Right? So it depends on each of us.
Indeed. Do you miss conducting, though? Do you miss arranging and composing and conducting?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? There is another lesson that I've learned, that is nothing lasts forever.
So true.
So
that's a tough one.
In the past, I used to get anxious because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. But now I think of, first of all, you can't have it all. Second of all, I am grateful for having this job. It's not going to last forever, I know. And I have my plans of doing many other things. But I'm going to enjoy this while it lasts. I know what is to not having a job, a steady job. This is a steady job for 6 months. So I'm not worrying about how am I going to pay the rent, because I have a steady job that pays me well in this moment. But I know, again, this is not going to last forever. So I'm going to get a conducting job in next year, probably.
Awesome.
I'm going to arrange more things. Yeah. So sometimes I worry, of course, but now I always think, okay, thanks God for this job, and this is not going to last forever. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
We are coming towards the end, and I do want to respect your time, but I do remember you telling me about how you feel addressing the economics of the music industry and the big differences between the so-called industrial musicians and the more regular, everyday working musicians, independent musicians.
Yeah.
The fact that is something that's been bothering you for a while. Do you want to share your thoughts on this with us?
Well, again, it depends. I think I'm choosing a hard path because, as I said, one of my passions is traveling and playing or conducting, right? And that comes with some perks of not having a steady job, for example. I had it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to travel. So I think that frustrated me a lot. So when I was starting my second crisis in 2019, I started listening to some podcasters, and they said, okay, just picture what would be your dream job.
Yeah. Visualization.
And the first thing that I thought about was, I love traveling. Not traveling for the sake of traveling. Yeah. It's just, I love getting to know different cultures, different music, food, dances. I really thrive into that.
Awesome.
So now that I have one of my dream jobs, that is this job, where I get to play bass and travel the world.
Amazing.
So now I get to save money, and I don't have to worry about money for 6 months, right? But what is going to happen after I was living in LA right before coming to this job, right? I'm going to go back there. I know a lot of musicians there, a lot of colleagues from Berkeley. I know that they are struggling a lot, but I also know there are a lot of opportunities there.
Right.
It's a hard work. You have to really, really, really work super, super hard. But I am confident that I'm gonna find my way up.
What do you think the core of the crux of this issue, like these struggles musicians have to keep putting up with? Where do you think the roots of this issue lie? Because honestly, I interact with a lot of musicians who, and I'm not considering you as one of them because you seem to have a positive mindset, but I've noticed that a lot of musicians seem to be creating this self-fulfilling prophecy of a life full of struggle and pain. And sure, life comes with its struggle and pain. They're inherent parts, but it's like this whole struggling artist is still a very romanticized image. Is that something you've ever thought about? Do you think we are responsible for being part of the problem, musicians themselves?
Oh, wow. I just want to say this. Years ago, I didn't like to think about money. It's not that I wasn't worried about it, but I was so focused on the music that I kind of, maybe I used to think that how can I say this?
Take your time.
If I thought about making money, I would be not a true artist, if this makes sense.
Absolutely.
But now I don't think that I make art. I think as a musician that provides a service.
Yes.
Again, this is just my personal opinion based on my personal experience.
Yeah.
A while ago, I was looking at jobs like web page for jobs for musicians in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that performers like me, we are the lowest paid people in the music industry. And we spend our time working on our skills, honing our skills. Exactly. And we are the ones that play the music.
Yeah.
But
and we are the worst paid.
Exactly. And the music industry people, the H&Rs, the other part of the music industry, they get paid very, very well. Indeed. So I found out that to be, how can I say? I can't think on the word. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm missing a word here.
That's all right.
But I said, what can I do to better my pay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense.
So, what? Tell me.
No, I was just saying, I'm intimately familiar, my bachelor's degree was at a college which was a mixed course of music business and music. And we did have two different streams. So we had the folks who were specializing in music business and had to do a couple of musical projects. And then we had the musicians who were musicians but had to do a few music business courses. And students, the full-time music business students, a lot of whom were musicians. It was so evident that they're going to be way more successful financially in the next few years. And that has been true. And some of my colleagues since then, a lot of them even quit music because the finances just weren't sustainable anymore at some point. And I think it's a mix of poor information where this romanticized idea of the starving artist is being sold as the true deal, as the real deal.
Yes, probably.
And also artists not informing themselves and getting a reality check on the fact that, hey, if I'm, it's one thing to play music as a hobby, but if I am a professional artist, I am an entrepreneur by default.
Yes, right.
And that comes with its own risks. It comes with its own responsibilities. It also comes with its list of initiatives that I have to take on my own. It's basically a business. It's a business, and I do have to run that business.
That's
and I have to be proactive in running that business.
That is true.
Right? And it feels like information, like generations of musicians going to college, leaving with a degree in their hands, but without the most vital part.
Yes, you know
puzzle,
what?
Which is you're an entrepreneur. Go make a living. This is your skill.
That is true.
No one's gonna call you. No one's calling you. You're gonna have to go find.
That is so true.
You have to build your life.
Yeah, actually, the other day I was thinking that it would be nice if I was told about these things when I was in school.
Yeah.
But again, I chose the performer and arranging side of the music, right? Other people choose the music business thing. And it would be awesome if there is a combination of both so that the musician that is studying music purely, the musician that is putting on the time every freaking day, practicing scales and chords. It would be nice if we were told, hey, you have to be an entrepreneur. If you want to have a successful career, you have to do this and that. Because sometimes we don't know. But at the same time, it is our responsibility to inform ourselves of the things that we should be doing. You know what? Often I see in social media these posts of colleagues, purely performers, kind of talking bad because they have to fill out paperwork, they have to be organized in the business aspect, they just complain. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that. But hey, guess what? This is real life.
Yeah.
Right?
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
There are some things that we have to do, even though we wouldn't like doing that. But, well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking as a son of two doctors, they have to do their taxes too. They have to work with accountants. They have to figure out their legal stuff. That's not part of practicing medicine either. But, that is shit they need to deal with. So it feels like information that often gets bypassed. Esther, I feel like we could. I want to respect your time. You have officially qualified for what I call the intercontinental drive status. A list of guests with whom I would like to go on an intercontinental drive some days, just so we can keep continuing the chat.
Yes,
I know,
absolutely.
right? The last question I would like to ask you before you leave, it's like a mission question of sorts. The name of this podcast is a reference to an ancient Indian act of burning things away in a sacred fire. And if you want, if this resonates with you, is there anything you would like to throw away into a sacred fire if you were in front of one today?
Oh my God. I would like to throw away my ego.
Interesting.
That's
a big one. You sure you want to throw in all of your ego?
Well, not all. It is healthy to have some peace, but the majority. My insecurities, all my negative part. Yes.
Yeah, seems to be general consensus. Thank you so much, Esther. This was an absolute pleasure, an absolute honor. Thank you so much for making this happen.
No.
Audiences, we've been working for like how many weeks have we been trying? Have we been trying to get this date on for? It seems like a while.
Today, this morning, I was writing with my laptop in deck 8, but suddenly my laptop just froze. I don't know why. Maybe because it's super cold today in New Orleans. So I had to connect with my phone, but we did it. Thank you for asking me to do this. It was very enlightening. And I was listening to some of your podcasts, and I really love the things that you are doing. Really,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on. Thank you for the trust.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop recording here. Gratitude from the bottom of my heart for listening to the very end. Please consider taking a minute to subscribe to our shows so you know when the next episode is out. This is a labor of love, one I hope snowballs into one that's sustainable in its attempt to support independent thought and authentic relating. While having you as a regular member of our audience is what makes that a realistic prospect. Much love and talk soon. Just another voice that